If you want to become better, faster, become a part of your stories, you are a character. If you consider yourself to be a character in your story, the way your character are created through the expression of their identity, their behavior, their action will be expressed much more simply. It will be much more relatable for you, since now you are a character. So you have this ability to think as your character may think. If you become a part of your story, you may be more capable of developing a way to create more dense behavior. If you can target your own weaknesses and your own strengths, you can understand the weaknesses and the strengths of your character more easily. If you're able to put yourself in the situations of your character, you'll be able to respond more efficiently. And if you're able to adopt a certain degree of empathy, you'll be able to develop different type of responses, allowing you to develop different type of characters. Namely, when it comes to identity, if you can't be multiple character, at least in the beginning, if you can't be these different profiles, these different types of characters, make use of roles. Roles will help you to develop, to expand on your own identity, on your own personality, in order to rethink your behavior for it to be more adapted to the behavior of multiple characters, and your actions to be more adapted to the actions of your characters. In the beginning, it will be difficult to be anything else but yourself. So make use of rules, and we have a card on the screen right now to help you to understand what roles are, in order to diversify these outer aspects of your identity, in order to develop multiple characters more easily. If you want to get better, faster, turn your story into a game. Remember, in this game, you're a character, and you're interacting with your other characters and with your public. You want to multiply these interactions through choices. Choices in any game are the core of your mechanics. You want to give your characters, and by assimilation, because your public will relate to your characters, you want to give your public to multiple choices. Now, these choices will have one main purpose: enhance and display the type of relationships in your story. And these relationships will put into perspective, will deepen, will exacerbate the cohesion of your world. Now, when it comes back to interaction, there are three main parts of your story. There's you, the character, author. They are the characters, your protagonist, antagonist, supporters, and menace. And there's your public. And remember, there are multiple types of public in your public. And these different types of publics, they will relate to your characters. Some of your public, some people in your public will relate more to your protagonist, for example. Some people in your public will relate more to your antagonist, and so on for all your main characters, secondary characters, and tertiary characters. But some part of your public will more relate to one aspect of you, because you have some weaknesses. You have some form of weaknesses. So these weaknesses will allow the public to create a link, a relationship with you, and you have some strengths. And again, these strengths will allow the public to create a relationship with you. So all of this is part of the choices. It's all part of the choices state of mind. So in any due situation, as you're displaying your choices through the characters, through the episodes, through the environment you're creating, allow the public to choose, just like the characters have to choose the solution to their issues. So give your public, give your characters, and give yourself in any due situation 3 kinds of choices. Why 3? 3 is the minimum amount of choices that you need in order to have a sufficient diversity in terms of choices. Also, 3 choices is just enough for you to not become confusing to your public. So 3 is a balanced number here. It's not too few choices, and it's not too many choices. Now, what does it support? Well, it supports the cohesion of your world. Having 3 choices in any new situation allow you to create a balance between coherence and consistency in your world, which allows your game to be more integrated, and which allows the interaction to be more cohesive. To summarize, you want to create a game which allows your public, the different kind of public and the different kind of characters, to interact between them and with yourself. To do so, you want to give them choices. These choices should display or enhance the relationships, and these relationships will put into perspective the cohesion of your world. We'll give you a card just right now to give you a link to the different kind of public and the different kind of character. Also, 2 links in the description to the corresponding videos. If you want to become better, faster, write for your own pleasure. Writing, storytelling, character creation, world building, all these should be pleasurable if you're aiming for sustainability. If you want to build stories in the very long run, if you want to build a series, saga, you should always make pleasure your first goal. Now, how do you do it, and how do you share this pleasure? You want to make a list of 12 topics. Now, these 12 topics should be expressed clearly in the list. It can be as simple as you want. You can put, for example, 12 words on the list, and these 12 words should be the most important things for you. Now, they can be anything. They can be 12 activities that you enjoy the most. They can be 12 concepts that you want to develop for your story. They can be 12 people that you enjoy the most. It doesn't matter really specifically. And if it's people, if it's 12 individuals, be sure to write on this list what does people represent to you in terms of concept. Give them quirks, and then you can transform them into characters and give them 12 different stories. Here, 12 is a minimum, but it should also be considered a maximum, because if you have a list which is too expansive, you will have some difficulty to focus. So it would be between 12 and 16 topics. Focus on these 12 and 16 topics and make them things that you love the most. So why would you do that? You want to create a resonance. You want to create a resonance between, again, you, your characters, and your public. You want to suscitate a certain level of emulation, a certain level of sympathy. You want your public and your character to emulate what you're doing right now, which is, well, having fun. Because if you're having fun, if you're having some sort of pleasure, some form of intellectual development through storytelling, if you have this conscience that you're practicing your craft and it apports you a high sense of satisfaction, people will feel it. And if people can feel it, they can emulate it if they have this certain degree of sympathy for you. Now, how do you exacerbate this degree of sympathy? You want to balance 2 main elements. Now, realize that surprising here does not directly relate to the public, and familiar does not directly relate to the characters, as we've been developing for the other video. Here, you want to bring surprise, because surprise here will act as an entertaining element. In most cases, it will be the entertaining factor, the surprise. And the familiar will be the grounding factor. So you want to create a balance between surprising and familiar, because you want to bring new ideas to your public, new ideas to your characters, and you want to allow them to make these new ideas their own. Because now, if they can make these ideas their own, and that your target to your goal is to write for pleasure, they can now read for pleasure. They can now absorb your story and make it pleasurable. So, to summarize, if you want to write for pleasure, and if you want that your story to be pleasurable for the ones who read it, make a list of the 12 topics that matters the most for you, and then develop them through your stories in order to create a balance between surprising new ideas and familiar, reassuring ideas. If you want to become better faster, you'll need to start to visit your world. Now, it can take literally the form of you taking 15 minutes before starting to write by exploring your world. Now, if you can create, if you're good at 3D modeling, and if you can create a 3D representation of your world, even if it's broad, or if you can do a 2D map, in order to imagine the atmosphere and the environment in a more vivid way, it's even better. You want to start to visit your world because you want to be able to guide both your public and your character through your world. In order to be able to guide them, you need to be able to know what are the most important locations in your world. You can take that in a very symbolic manner. For example, if you're writing a book on molecular biology, or if you're writing a book on mechanical engineering, the map we're dealing with doesn't have to be a geographical map. You need to develop a map of your discipline. You need to develop a map of your domain. For example, you need to, if you're in mechanical engineering, you need to develop a map in which you need to know about non-Euclidean geometry. You need to know about non-Newtonian mechanics and dynamics. And same for geographical maps. You want to be aware of what the capitals of your world are, what are the most important points, and what are the landmarks. Same goes for any discipline. And we're really making a parallel here between the visiting a geographical map and visiting a knowledge map, a mind map, because your characters, they have jobs. Your characters, they have functions in your world. They have roles in your world. So they need to have a certain degree of knowledge in their discipline. So again, if your main character, for example, is a molecular biologist, or if she is a mechanical engineer, you as the author to know to have some of the knowledge, to have some of the intelligence that your character should have. Otherwise, you won't be able to display your identity through this. Now, the purpose of this is to be able to lead the public, to lead the characters, to allow them to visit your world freely. You show them what's most important, and after that, you give them the choice to visit what they want to see. Now, when it comes to your characters, you'll generally allow them to visit your world in the form of quests. Your characters, through your chapters, through your episodes, through your missions, through your sub-stories, will be able to visit your world. They will be able to visit the most important part of your world, and then they'll be able to visit what's left, in a free exploration. What you want to grant to your public is quite similar. You want to give your public, and your character for that matter, memories. You want to grant them souvenirs. All of this, all that you're offering for your stories are gifts. You're offering a story to the public, to the character. You're allowing them to collect memories. If you want to become better, faster, attachment should become your final goal. Attachment will be expressed through you to your public, your characters, and your world. Attachment now is created through a form of dedication. You want to dedicate yourself to your public so that your public can support you, they can support your character, and can develop your world. You want to develop this dedication for your characters so your character enhance your public's experience and enhance the evolution of your world. Now, how do you develop attachment to your public? You want to create likability, relatability, and memorability. And these three factors will be developed through your characters. The likability factor will be developed through the strengths of your character. The relatability factor will be developed through the weaknesses of your character. And the memorability factor will be developed through the quirks of your character. Now, same goes for your world. Your world can be likable, relatable, and memorable through the atmosphere, the inhabitants, and the architecture of your world. You want to focus the attachment of your public with yourself and your character, because your public has a crucial world, a central world in your whole enterprise. The support that your public is bringing to you, to your characters, to your world, and to your story is expressed through their radiance. The public will test your story. The public will advise you and your character, and the public will effect an arbitrage of your world and of your story. The public are there to give you feedback. The public are there to give you useful feedback. A feedback on you, the themes of your story, and your character. And that's their way to support you. More in the next part. If you want to become better, faster, you have to turn your story into a collective story. Now, what's a story here? The term story will refer not only to the book you're writing right now, the movie you're making right now, the game you're developing right now, but to the concept of story. Your whole story, the chain of events which are scaled up to the different stories you'll ever write. Or in another word, your saga, the enchainment of the different story you'll ever write, but also the very fact that you're starting to write them. That's the story. In this perspective, in this context, the 12 themes you're developing, the 12 most important themes for you that you've written, will help you to develop this story. Now, who is interacting in this collective story? You, your characters, and your public. And there's a direct dependency between these three entities. As you are originating, then you are creating entities that are supposed to inspire the very one which will assist you the most. Now, you and your public share the merit and therefore the responsibility to allow your story to evolve. Your public will help you through useful feedback. And again, useful feedback is directly defined by a feedback you can use. So a procedure, I like that, is not useful to you. I dislike that, I love that, I hate that, doesn't help you. Or it helps you, but in such an indirect and confusing manner that you won't be able to implement this advice, this feedback to enhance your stories. Whereas, I would have done this differently, and this is how. And I give you step number 1, step number 2, and step number 3. That's a useful form of feedback. And there are multiple ways to express it, but they will all take this form. When your public speaks to you, you'll want to listen to them. if they are telling you, I would have taken a different direction with this character, and this is the direction. She could have chosen in this situation too, or she could have chosen in this situation too, and they give you a procedure to implement maybe in your next story, and you can take their ideas directly and put them in your next book, in your next movie, in your next game. Soliciting the public, engaging the public, will allow this mutual generation of content, this mutual generation of story. So you want to make your public aware that they're responsible for the growth of the story. If they can help you, they will make the story better. Now, this is your final rule. This is your most essential rule when it comes to developing new story and to developing attachment. Your story is now a collective story. If you like this video and want more of this type of content, check our video on the 6 surefire ways to create a story.